Hey everyone, Tom again here from ATD. Today we're doing our installer video. So for the guys out there that have purchased our product, we want to show you where and how to install it. So we've taken a standard 4-ton air handler, okay, horizontal mount. You'd normally find this, obviously in hot attics, unfortunately. Um, we've taken our stage 1 standard subcooler and mocked up the piping on it so we can explain to you, how it installs. So when you get the subcooler from us, in the box obviously will be the model subcooler that you purchase. Also will be mounting tabs with 1/2-inch self-tapping screws. You can screw into anywhere on this unit if you need to mount it, on the floor, if you need to mount it on top of the air handler. These screws will not pierce anything. There's enough insulation, or I should say foam insulation, inside the box that you don't have to worry about that. We'll ship either flat brackets or either angle brackets. Also, in your order will be this, a Sporlin 163 HH filter line dryer. Okay, I don't care if you have a 2-ton, I don't care if you have a 5-ton. I want the dryer replaced. This is a must. You can put it outdoors or indoors. Okay, if you guys decide to put it indoors, it needs to be on the line set of the inlet of the subcooler, not the outlet. Okay, you want to filter anything before it hits the subcooler. Also in your package is going to be this, because most guys in most supply houses don't carry this. It's 3/8 by 1/2-inch wall Armaflex. You must now insulate the liquid line coming down the outlet of the subcooler to your TXV, because it will condensate because we're running those colder temperatures now. The inlet side, obviously not. We're coming from the condenser. We don't care about that. Requirement, very, very important, okay? We have to have a TXV at your air handler. It will not work with a piston. If you have a piston metering device, you can remove it. You can retrofit an expansion valve on there. Easy to do. Then you can mount it exterior to the coil on the outside of the air handler. It makes life a lot easier for servicing, replacement, so on and so forth. We can sell you the expansion valve, or we can recommend a model for you, either way. So the way to install this is obviously a mock-up. This would be our line set coming from our condensing unit, okay? Your liquid line, your suction line, okay? You essentially cut out a section of the piping and retrofit this in. Here's your inlet. It's clearly marked on multiple labels here. 2 condensing unit with an arrow, okay? The side note, the sight glass on this will always be on the condenser side. So if for some reason you forget, or the label gets damaged or whatever, always note that the sight glass is your condenser side hookup, okay? So this is coming from our condensing unit outside. We connect the liquid, we connect the suction. Also, when you receive our products, you'll notice that they will be capped on both ends, okay? We pressure test the unit prior to putting it in the box. We then evacuate it, and we put a holding dry nitrogen charge in it. So the first step is remove the 2 service taps, high and low, pull your Schraders out, take the pressure off before you cut any of the caps off, okay? Now, the outlet of it, we didn't hard pipe. When you grow up piping supermarkets, it's in your DNA essentially. So it's a nice, neater job. If you guys want to use elbows, if you want to bend the pipe, it's your call. So we basically took the outlet of it, came down, connected to the suction and the liquid on our evaporator coil. Okay, and again, We need to insulate the liquid line. Very important because it will condensate. Okay. Now, as far as charging goes, okay, after you get it installed, it's brazed in, we do our pressure test, we do our evac, everything looks good. We, prior to installing it, we're either going to pump the unit down, obviously, or we're going to reclaim the gas out and open up the whole system. Not necessarily easy, so we usually just, when we're retrofitting, we pump it down and install it. After your evac, everything looks good. When we go to charge, very important, we're no longer charging off of superheat, okay? And the reason being is because the subcooler is going to skew our superheat reading, so we're not going to get it where we want it to be, okay? So for you guys that are in refrigeration, you all know that we charge off a sight glass, okay? So we're going old school here. But this is how it works, and it works very well. So after your evacuation, you open your ports, obviously outside, you turn your unit on, okay? Depending on the staged model, we're going to need an additional anywhere from 2 all the way up to 6 pounds on the bigger models of additional refrigerant, okay? So we turn it on, we let it run for 10 or 15 minutes. We want the evap, give it a chance to get cold. Let our expansion valve start doing its job and start throttling back a little bit, especially if we're starting it on a hot day. At that point, our sight glass will be flashing quite a bit, okay? Now, if you're in the attic, I feel sorry for you, but you can hook your high and low side taps on here from your gauges. We made it easier for you, so one guy doesn't have to be in the attic while the other guy's at the unit on the phone saying, hey, is it clear? At that point, we usually just obviously bring our refrigerant tank to the attic. We start charging. What we recommend is 5-6 second shots of liquid into your suction. Close your gauges. Let everything balance out. Let it run 2-3 minutes. At that point, you're probably still going to be flashing. You're going to have to repeat this step, 2, 3, 4, 5 times to get the proper amount of refrigerant in there. At some point, the bubbles in here will become less, and less. At that point, we're going to go to a fully clear sight glass. Okay, there's going to be no bubbles in it. Your unit's running. It's going to remain clear. That's when we know our charge is good. Do not put any more refrigerant in it. You're good at that point. At that point, now we know we have a full column of liquid entering our subcooler. We have a full column of liquid exiting our subcooler to our TXV. We have no flash gas in there. We do not want flash gas, okay? At that point also, that's when you can clamp your pipe temperature meter on the inlet. You can clamp your pipe temperature meter on the outlet. This is where you're going to see your delta drop, okay? With the clear sight glass, this is what makes this possible to function at 100%, okay? Now, on colder days, you're not going to have that great a delta. So, for instance, this particular model will do up to a 35-degree delta between the inlet and the outlet. That being said, on a 75 or 80-degree day, we may only get a 12 to 15-degree delta. But now we come back to a 95, 100, 105-degree day, and that's when we're going to be hitting 30, 32, 35-degree delta. It will work better the hotter it gets outside, okay? So, as an example, if our base liquid line temperature exiting it is somewhere in the mid to upper 50s, or depending on our model, if we put a stage 3 on it, we can essentially get it into the upper 40s or even mid 40-degree temperature range. On a hot day, that base number will remain within a few degrees. So if our base is 45 or 48 degrees on a hot day, it may creep up a little bit. You may go up to 50, 52. But what's really going to creep up obviously, as we know, is the inlet temperature. As the ambient rises outside, this liquid temperature is going to rise. We're not going to be going in at 85 anymore. We may be going in at 100, 105, 110. We all know that's when our ACs start losing capacity. So also, and we've covered this in many videos before, but it's a big, big point, because now we're running a colder evap because of the colder liquid going into the thermal expansion valve. The valve will be throttling back. So you run this for 20, 30 minutes fully charged with your clear sight glass. Now you're going to see your suction pressure slowly creep down, okay? And it's not going to go into the freeze point. You don't have to worry about that. That's not going to happen. As long as you got a fully functional TXV, you're fine, okay? At that point, our suction drops. What happens? Our compressor load starts dropping, okay? I.e., we're essentially drawing less kilowatt hours per month. Because now we're able to absorb more BTUs in our evaporator coil because our liquid's going in colder. We're running a colder evap. We're getting more BTUs per hour, okay? So if this is a 4-ton unit, realistically, 48,000 BTUs in a hot day, we're not going to be absorbing 48,000 BTUs, okay? We may be, 42, even 38, depending on the unit and what the ambient temperature is. With the subcooler, we can not only bring that on a hot day back to the 48,000 BTUs, it will go well and beyond that. Realistically, this one, 48,000 BTUs with this particular, this is basically the base model, okay? We will be in the neighborhood of 54 to 55,000 BTUs. So, great increase. Our dehumidification is good. Now, we didn't mock up a drain line on this, but your drain line's coming out, your primary drain, your secondary drain, okay? We recommend, and especially in high humidity locations, if you're in, anywhere by the coast, obviously, insulate up at least the primary drain coming out, at least past the trap. Because that condensate water coming from your coil is going to be colder than it's ever been. And we've seen many, many instances where the 3/4 PVC will condensate on the outside and, drip on people's ceilings and whatnot. So we don't want that. So that's another installer tip that we recommend doing. And obviously servicing the drain line, okay? While you're putting this in, let's not cut corners. We've already changed the dryer, let's wash the outdoor unit. You can factor all that into the cost of the install, to your customer and whatnot. Sell them on selling the PM at the same time. Get it all done. This will work great. They'll be happy. You'll get repeat work. Other than that, that's about it. So by installing it, obviously, we increase BTU absorption. We increase dehumidification, all while reducing compressor loads. One last advantage that we found is there's a lot of evaps out there, and I'm sure you guys have seen this because that's one of the reasons why, too, we get bad compressors is where you get oil lag, meaning we're not running a fully flooded evap, so we may get oil that gets trapped in your evaporator coil. How many times you go to change out a coil, you heat the fitting, you pop it out, and you get a flame of oil coming out, Line set, going through an attic, it sags, it's a long line set, we get oil trapped in the suction line there. Now, one of the other benefits, like I said, because we can run a fully flooded evap now because of the subcooler, even in the hot temperatures, and that's what we wanted, we're washing that oil back. We're sending it back up the suction line to the compressor. Are we getting liquid back from this? No. Our suction line will run colder. We have seen anywhere from as low as 45 degrees to upper 40s to we average on a hot day, usually low 50s. Which is perfect temperature because then we're getting good suction coolant back to the compressor. We all know when the coil starves in the summertime when it's really hot, and we check our suction line, it's somewhere generally in the 60s, and our compressor's not loving life. So by better oil return, colder suction temperature going back to the compressor, more suction coolant, and i.e. less load on the compressor, what does that equal? Longer life for the compressor. So that's it. We made it kind of an easy install for you guys. If you have any questions, please email us, call us. You can text us at the number on our website too. We're glad to answer any. If you install it on site, you have a problem, naturally contact us. But it's, like I said, very simple install. You can mount this, on the floor out of the way, as long as you can obviously still access the panels. We've had guys where we support it from the rafters, whatever works for your application. Every application is different. There isn't one thing fits all. It doesn't happen. So anyways, again, any questions, comments, whatever, please hit the like, subscribe button, and we look forward to serving you. Have a good day. Thank you for watching.